What's good, Melanin Warriors? We jumping back into the series of the massacres of highly melanated people in America. We going to Atlanta this time, man. Let's get it.
Stand for something, you gon' fall for anything.
Melanin Warriors.
Let's go.
M-E-L-A-N-I-N
Warriors.
M-E-L-A-N-I-N
Warriors.
M-E-L-A-N-I-N
Warriors.
Melanin Warriors. Melanin Warriors. I shade all my kings and queens. Melanin Warriors. Either you stand for something or fall for anything.
So by the 1880s, Atlanta had become the hub of the regional economy, and the city's overall population increased a lot from like 89,000 in the 1900s to all the way up to 150,000 by 1910. The population of highly melanated people in Atlanta were roughly around 9,000 in 1880, and it boomed up to 35,000 by 1900. The competition for jobs between the melanated workers and the white workers increased the distinctions of class and led the city's white leadership to adopt restrictions intended to control the daily behavior of the growing working class. So one of these conditions caused concern among the so-called elite whites who feared the social mixture of the races and led to the expansion of Jim Crow. So during the Reconstruction period around 1867 to 1876, you began to see the rise of so-called elite melanin people. And for me personally, I don't really believe in that whole elite term. Yeah, you may make a little bit of money, but you still could be an a-hole. So that kind of negates you being elite. But that's just my personal opinion. So the melanated men were allowed to vote and become more involved with politics. They were creating their own businesses, social networks, and communities geared towards the melanin people. Soon, the so-called elite melanin people began distancing themselves from their own kind. And you even see that a lot now, the so-called elite or upper echelon, you know what I'm saying, amongst our own people. And it's sad to say because it is our own people. They kind of look down on the less fortunate in a lot of cases. But this made many whites uncomfortable with the advancement of this group of melanin people. Whites began to blame the rising crime rate on melanin people, particularly threats of sexual assault against white women. So the governor-elects in 1906, they preyed on the white people's fear for the more successful melanin people, or the black upper class as they called it. So it was election time, so these governors was using the fear of these more financially successful melanin people. So a gentleman named Hoke Smith and Clark Howell used their newspaper platforms to influence the public's opinion on the melanin people of Atlanta. So by them doing this, it led to racial tension in Atlanta, saying that the disenfranchisement of the melanin people was necessary to make sure, and I quote, blacks would stay in their place. They also provoked the population more by making allegations of sexual assaults of white women at the hands of melanin men. The media would go on to use, their social media their media platforms. There wasn't no social media back then. Kind of like what y'all see a lot of times in the news now when you see somebody that's doing something minor that has a darker skin pigment, and they refer to them as a thug or this criminal or this gangster, whatever the hell they want to call them. Excuse my French. Like I said, I get real passionate about this type of stuff. So on Saturday, September 22nd, the newspaper reported that there were 4 assaults on white women, which none were even proven. This wasn't even actual fact, but it was in the media. So soon after that, thousands of white men and boys would gather downtown. The mayor at the time, James G. Woodward, attempted to calm things, but that failed horribly. By the evening, the crowd was a mob. They went down the Street, Pryor Street, Central Ave, and all over the melanin business district, smashing the windows of prominent melanin leaders like Alonzo Herndon, who had a barbershop, which we'll cover him later, but thankfully he was already at home by the time they struck his barbershop. The other barbershops was not so lucky. The raiders came in and killed the barbers there. They were attacking cars, jumping on trolleys just to assault the melanin men there. Finally, the militia came in, but the mob was not slowing down. Remember, I said that, y'all. The militia came in, but the mob that was assaulting the melanin people were not slowing down. They continued their brutal rampage until it began to rain heavily. So after it rained, it broke up. They stopped or whatever. On the following day, the media reported that the state militia had been mustered and blacks were no longer a problem because they had been driven out. So police and the militia out in force, patrolling the streets or whatever. The melanin people, however, they secretly began to arm themselves just in case the mob came back, which is their right as American citizens. Even with the police being there, some white groups still attack melanin neighborhoods. But some of the melanin people who they attempted to attack, they were able to defend their families and themselves, turning these hateful people away, with their firearms or whatever kind of weapons they had to use to defend themselves. So on the 24th, the melanated people held a meeting in Brownsville. Fulton County police heard of this meeting and that the melanin people were heavily armed, so they raided the meeting and a shootout began, resulting in the death of an officer. The militia came in and seized the weapons, and 250 melanin people were arrested. Remember what I said? Pay attention to what I said earlier. That's exactly why, because you see the mob kept going even though the militia was out there, but when they heard that some melanin people were just having a meeting and they had weapons to protect themselves, 250 of them were arrested and a shootout ensued, resulting with the tragic death of one police officer. So reports say that after the riot, about 25 to 40 melanin people were actually dead and 2 white people died. The police officer being one and a white woman who had a heart attack because of the mob and everything that was going on around her. So this led to a depression in the melanin community and the economy of the melanin people in Atlanta. This riot added to the statewide prohibition and the black suffrage restrictions. If y'all don't know what the black suffrage restrictions are, put something in the comments if y'all want me to cover it, or you can just do your research yourself, man. It's up to you. So this one in particular is exactly why I decided to do this series, because the incident was all but forgotten and ignored by official history of Atlanta. But stories like this is needed to be told. While the melanin people were vilified and murdered, we still continue to display resilience and look at Atlanta today, man. Look at my beautiful people out there in Atlanta today. Shout out to y'all, man. Not just the melanin people, but everybody in Atlanta that's together and doing their thing, man, and promoting peace and unity and all that other good stuff. Shout out to y'all, man. But y'all go ahead and join me next week as I talk about the massacre that took place in Memphis, Tennessee. Peace and blessings, my people. Ashe.
Stand for something, you gon' fall for anything. Melanin warriors. Let's go. M-E-L-A-N-I-N. Warriors. M-E-L-A-N-I-N. Warriors. M-E-L-A-N-I-N. Warriors. Melanin warriors, melanin warriors. I shade all my kings and queens, melanin warriors. Either you stand for something or fall for anything.